Hi, Professor TS, and we are Group A11.
Hello, I am Louis, and today I'm going to talk about the Trumponomics.
I'm Vera and I'm going to talk about the air pollution and externalities.
And Howard. I'm going to talk about TSMC as a monopoly in the market.
Hello, my name is Louis, and today I'm going to talk about the Trumponomics, which is about tariff impacts between the United States and Taiwan. And first of all, we need to know what is Trumponomic. And because of the trade conflict, and Trump is going to set up a very of different kind of barriers between the import and export, which means he wants to put the benefits of American in the first place. So they're going to impose the tariffs and reduce trade deficit and pressure trading partners. And they are also going to assume the US imposes reciprocal tariffs on selected Taiwanese products. For example, the semiconductors or machinery, which is more familiar with our country. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. And from these pictures, we can note about what is the mostly traded things between Taiwan and US. And the first one, I'm going to talk about the Taiwan's export to the US. So the first good is information or communication technology, which is ICT products. And the second one is electronic components. And the last one is machinery products or electrical apparatus. And the other side is about the US's exports to Taiwan. The first one is aircraft, ships, and related parts. And the second one is about the mineral products. And the last one is about the machinery and other parts. Okay, so after all, we know this kind of situation between US and Taiwan, we can start to understanding the concept between different tariff and different barriers between the world trade. So the first concept is about tariff policy and reciprocal tariff. And the tariff policy is more about the standard practice, which is mostly the country, like most country in the world are using this kind of policy to protect their import or export from their country. And the other reciprocal tariff, which is more likely to target retaliation, which is more about to related to our Trumponomic. And the core purpose of the general tariff policy is going to have the revenue generation and protection of domestic industry. And the scope is general and routine trade. And the likely outcome is about trade stability and high predictability. So when the country is going to take the general tariff policy, which will gain their which will make the prices to be more higher, but this is going to protect their export. And the second one, the reciprocal tariffs, the core purpose is about fostering behavioral change and retaliation against trade barriers. And the scope is about targets at specific conflicting station or products. And the likely outcome is about the trade conflict, high uncertainty. So this kind of reciprocal tariff is more about the Trumponomic, is because when the US is going to impose more and more tariff on that, which is like more than the general tariff policy, which will gain the reciprocal tariff. And this is it is like more aggressive policy to use on the world trade to protect their benefit from their country. And the second concept is about tariffs versus quotas. And the tariff is more about the price instrument, and the import quota is more about the quantity instrument. And about the definition of the tariff is a tax imposed on imported good, and the definition of import quotas is about a direct limited, like ceiling or floor on the volume or value of imported goods. So the tariff is most likely to make the price control, and the quota is more likely to get the quantity to be reduced. And the control method about the tariff is indirectly restrict quantity, and the quota is about directly restrict quantity. So when we impose a tariff on it, the quantity will indirectly restrict because the price is raising by the tariff, and the country will import less quantity of the goods. And finally, to talk about the government revenue is about the tariff. The tariff will gain the directly government revenue because they just increase by collecting the tariff from time to money. But from quotas, they're just going to cut down the quantity, so they're not going to take the direct revenue. They only got like generation of the quota rent. So it is not directly revenue from the government, from the goods import. Okay, and after we know about these two types of concept, we're going to talk about if there are another alternative policy instrument. And what I choose is about the circumstance for quota preference. And if a country may prefer a quota over a tariff primary for certainty and effectiveness, which will get this two type of consequence or effectiveness. The first one is going to guarantee protection target, which means quotas precisely and certainly limit import volume, which is crucial when world prices are violated and domestic demand elasticity is uncertain. And the second one is preventing tariff absorption. When the quotas create scarcity, guaranteeing a domestic price increase. This prevents foreign firms from simply lowering their export price to absorb the tariff, thereby neutralizing its protective effect. And in the last, I'm going to have this kind of graphic analyze. And the first one is the United States import. So when we know if the country is going to import, and which is under the Trumponomic, so we were going to get the reciprocal tariff. And if an import country, the domestic prices will be much higher than the world price. So when they import, they will get the lower price. But when they get this kind of tariff policy, then the price will be more higher. And in the consequence, will gain the debt loss, and the government can get the tariff revenue from this kind of policy. And both of the consumer and producer surplus will be reduced because of the debt loss and the tariff. And the second one is about the Taiwan's export. So under this circumstance, the world prices will much higher than the domestic prices. So Taiwan can export this goods to US or other country. And when the tariff is imposed on the goods, they will gain debt loss, and both of the surplus will be reduced because of this kind of tariff policy either. So about this two type of analysis, which in the conclusion is about if the country are going to take the tariff to protect their country, and some kind of like deadweight loss and the surplus of the customer or producer will be reduced, but which can gain the protectiveness from their domestic stuff or goods. And this is what I'm going to talking about today. Thank you.
And hi everyone, my name is Howard, and today's topic is TSMC as a dominant producer in the advanced chip market, pricing, cost, and competition. And here is the graph of the monopoly pricing and quantity determination. And we can see the yellow part is the double loss caused by the higher price and the restricted supply. And the point that MC and AC intersect is the perfect competitive market level. But this situation is monopoly, so it doesn't produce at the quantity. And the purple part is the cost. The green part is the abnormal profit. And the green line is demand curve. Blue line is marginal revenue curve. And let's talk about how AI chip demand surge shift the demand curve and affect the equilibrium price and the output. The entire demand curve shifts rightward, and which leading to a new equilibrium that features a higher price, higher quantity, and greater economic profit. And why TSMC sustain positive long-run profit while competitors struggle to match its efficiency and yield? Because there is high and durable barriers to enter the market. And also TSMC is technology lead, and it has its own institutional knowledge. Also, the economics of scale is a reason, which means it has lower average total cost. And TSMC also has pricing power, which sets the long-run price above the average total cost, ensuring the positive economic profit. And we know TSMC is building new fabs in the US and Japan. Are these short-run or long-run decisions? In fact, the construction of new fabs is long-run decision because the scale of operation and fixed capital are changed. And as a result, there is a shift in TSMC's long-run average total cost curve, which makes it possible to potentially achieve new economies of scale. And let's talk about the role of fixed investment in shaping these long-run production decisions. Fixed investment, or can be known as fixed costs, are non-reversible. Long-term commitment that define its internal cost advantage and its ability to maintain monopoly profit for the foreseeable future. And what if the market is open to other competitors? Let's look from the monopoly to oligopoly, the entry of Intel or Samsung. The first consequence is the loss of pricing power. TSMC will lose its ability to price chips by looking up at the high demand curve from the marginal revenue equals marginal cost point. And the second one is that output and the increase in efficiency. The combined output of the market will increase, and the double-lost triangle will shrink or be eliminated.
Hello everyone,
everyone, my name is Vera and I'm going to talk about air pollution and negative externalities, why the market fails and how to fix it. First, I'm going to talk about the real-world example. It is PM 2.5 pollution from vehicles and power plants. This emission creates a negative externality such as long-term health damage, higher medical expenses, reduces productivity, and lower quality of life. The producer of the externality are the factories, power plants, and the car users who generate pollution. The victims are the people living nearby, especially children, the elderly, and workers who suffer the health consequences. Because the polluters do not pay for this external cost, the market outcome becomes inefficient. And why a negative externality causes market failure? It is because the private cost is lower than the social cost. Producers only consider their own cost, not the harm they impose on others. As a result, the market produces too much pollution, and too many polluting goods are consumed and produced. This mismatch between private and social costs creates an inefficient allocation of resources. Let's look at the graph. This graph illustrates the problem. There is a downward sloping demand curve. The PC reflects the producer's private cost, while the social cost curve includes the external cost. The market equilibrium occurs at Qn, where demand intersects the PC. However, the socially optimal output is Qo, where demand intersects the SC. The triangle between SC, PC, and the demand curve is the deadweight loss. This area represents the loss in total welfare due to the overproduction and pollution. Society bears this loss because the external costs are not internalized. To correct the market failure, government uses both command and control and market-based policies. Command and control policies include emission standards like maximum PM 2.5 level for every factory. The other is technology requirements like factories need to install scrubbers or filters. The pros are that it is simple and easy to understand. It provides a clear, guaranteed reduction in pollution. So it is useful when pollution is dangerous or urgently needs control. However, cons are that it is inflexible because all firms face the same rule even if they have different costs. Also, it can cause a higher compliance cost. For the market-based policies, it includes Pigovian taxes and tradable pollution permits. The advantage is that it incentivizes innovation. It means that firms have financial motivation to develop cleaner technologies. Also, it can achieve social optimum because it is properly designed. The policy aligns private incentive with the full social cost of pollution. The disadvantage is that it is hard to set the correct tax or cap. If the Pigovian tax is too low, the pollution reduction is insufficient. If the tax is too high, it can overburden the firms. Next, I would like to explain how a Pigovian tax aligns private incentive with social welfare. In a free market, producers often only consider their own cost, what we call the marginal private cost. They ignore the negative side effects or the externalities, like pollution, that they impose on the society. Because they ignore these external costs, they produce too much pollution. This creates a gap between the private outcome and the socially optimal outcome. So, how do we fix this? The solution is to internalize the externality. We do this by imposing a tax. But how high should the tax be? Crucially, the tax rate should be set exactly equal to the external cost at the socially optimal level of output, which is the QS. By doing this, we force the producer to pay for the damage they cause, effectively making their private cost equal to the social cost. Let's look at this diagram to see how it works visually. First, look at the intersection of the demand curve and the supply curve. This gives us a market equilibrium at Qm. At this point, production is too high because the firm is ignoring the external damage. Now look at the higher curve, the marginal social cost curve. This curve includes both the private cost and the external damage. The ideal point for a society is where the SC meets the demand curve at the QS. To reach this point, we apply the Pigovian tax. As you can see by the arrow, the tax shifts the PC curve upward vertically. The new curve is labeled PC plus the tax. Notice that it is now intersects the demand curve exactly at QS. By raising the firm's cost, the tax has successfully reduced the quantity produced from the inefficient QM to the efficient QS. So now let's look at the real-world examples. Taiwan's air pollution fee. Historically, Taiwan charged fees based on emission levels. However, a challenge has been that these fees sometimes provide limited incentive for companies to reduce production deeply. To address this, Taiwan has introduced new carbon fee rates. The standard rate is $300 per ton for a CO2 equivalent. However, to encourage action, there are preferential rates. If companies apply for a reduction plan and meet specific targets, the rate can drop to $50 or $100. This design incentives companies to adopt cleaner technologies. Finally, we must consider the bigger picture. Production crosses borders, creating international externalities. Individual countries often lack of a full incentive to reduce pollution alone. Therefore, we need international cooperation, such as carbon markets and global climate agreement. The key insight is that global pollution requires Pigovian-style mechanisms on an international scale to be truly effective. Okay, this is our presentation. Thank you so much.